Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities. How's everyone doing this Friday morning? Beautiful sunny morning here in Utah. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's had a good week, making the most of it, and going to make the most of this coming weekend. Today we are joined by KUTI Mack. KUTI, I'm going to bring him on. Thanks for taking the time to come on and share your experience, knowledge, and wisdom. And if you wouldn't mind, let's start off. Just give a little introduction about yourself.
All right, so a little introduction to me. I'm KUTI Mack, as you said, and as you can see, basically, I'm a guy who's been passionate about a lot of things, but the two things that have always followed me throughout the course of my life were taking care of myself, taking care of my body, being healthy, and music. And those two things were just always, whether I would have found myself professionally involved with either aspects. They've always been things that have followed me. I made a career for myself. As you can see, some of the little hardware I collected along the way, and even some of the instruments behind me. This is just my day-to-day life. Being a record label executive, being a musician, being a songwriter, producer, manager. I've worked in the music business for decades, to be honest, and along the course of that, I always was mindful of my health. When I was young, I was an athlete, and that continued all the way up through right about college. And then I've maintained those healthy habits, most of them, as far as I knew, throughout my adult life. And at some point, I was managing an artist. Come to think of it, I was managing an artist, and we had taken that artist pretty much as far as we could take him until something new, i.e., a new record deal, could manifest. And that was taking a long time to manifest. And as that was stagnating, because I was getting paid basically off of the work he was doing, when he wasn't working, I wasn't earning. And whenever I found myself at any point in life stuck or stagnating, especially if it came down to finances, I remembered how expensive it always seemed to be to people around me who were unhealthy. So as somebody who had, made it a habit and a lifestyle of being healthy, I just would drill down on being healthy. And as I was doing my own workouts and eating and all this kind of stuff, I started gaining a reputation with the people within my circle, and even some slightly outside of my circle, as a guy who knew a lot about exercise. And I thought I knew a lot about nutrition until I actually studied it wholeheartedly. And then what happened was there was a seismic crossroads that I hit, where my father, about 13, 14 years ago, he had a blood pressure incident that almost killed him. And he typically was known as, he looked from the outside to be healthy. He was a lot leaner than I was. He ran every single day. I'm talking rain, snow, sleet. It didn't matter. He would run every day. It was even now. Go ahead.
I have a question. Was it uphill both ways to school?
It's funny you say that, because where I live now, it feels like it's uphill both ways. Like I cannot find a downhill route to save my life out here, man. It's been killing me. But he ran all the time. I get it, he ran all the time. And so it was sort of startling. And it was sort of startling to us that he had this situation come up. Now, some of it was a chronic condition that he just didn't monitor properly by going to doctors with regularity, all that jazz. But the sobering thing to me was, at that point in my life, I hadn't achieved certain things. I wanted him around for certain things. And so selfishly, I was like, man, if I know anything about fitness or even nutrition, I need to share it with him, because this is like life or death at this point. And so I actually took some courses in holistic nutrition. Regular nutrition. I'm jumping ahead. I took some courses in regular nutrition. I figured I already knew exercise. I've been exercising since I was a kid. And I went to his cupboard while he was still in the hospital and just cleared everything out. I was like, okay, look, we're going to start from scratch. And so that was kind of like my introduction to becoming a nutritionist. And then from there, I started to study holistic nutrition, because I've always been, even as a child, I've always been more holistic in my approach than pharmaceutical or just textbook. So I wanted to dig deeper and see what nature had to say about how to fix ourselves. And so as I'm doing that and helping him out, just like with anything else, when you learn something that really lights that fire, that lights that passion, like we talk about with your show, you don't keep it to yourself. You kind of can't help but just to spread it the way you're spreading with your platform or just anything else. You hear a great song, you want to tell somebody else about this great song. You eat at a great restaurant, you want to tell somebody else about the great restaurant.
You crank that volume.
Okay. Yes. Yes. And so basically, then I became kind of known as this proselyte of nutrition and stuff. And I started learning stuff that even I didn't know. And so that was eye-opening for me because I thought I knew it all, to be honest. And so I started learning about nutrition. I couldn't help but tell other people. And then before you know it, I had this little bit of this layman's following, like, because I would work out by myself. And so friends would be like, if you want to get in shape, hang out with KUTI. If you want to learn about nutrition, hang out, ask KUTI. So I became the person, even as a record label executive, I became the fitness guy. And, I didn't think anything of it. So fast forward to the moment I was telling you about where my artist was stagnated and it was time for me to figure out what I was doing. And I was talking to one of my buddies who was an established and very successful affluent trainer. He was listening to me talk about nutrition one day. He was like, dude, you should do this. You should train people because you got it. And I was like, nah, whatever, dude. To me, fitness was like being a lifeguard. It was like seasonal work for young kids, that kind of look the part, but, don't really know what they're talking about. And every time I'd go to a box gym, I never saw a personal trainer either engaging in the workout that motivated me or that told me anything that I didn't already know or couldn't find out easily. So because of that, I didn't respect the profession. So I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. Plus, I didn't think there was any money in it. I was used to making platinum money, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I'm not doing that. And then one day I was in the gym with my little kind of mini following of friends and referrals because I just didn't feel like working out by myself. That's all it was. I wasn't getting paid. I wasn't even training them. I was just like, hey, look, this is my exercise. If you want to do it, you can do it. Like that was all I was doing. But what started happening was the gyms started paying attention to me, and people who worked in the gyms were telling me, hey, buddy, we appreciate your membership, but you can't train in here because we have trainers. And I was like, I'm not training. I'm just working out. And then finally, one trainer who I happened to know from college he pulled me aside. He's like, hey, man, they're talking about you. And I was like, yeah, they keep bugging me about, training, and I'm not training anybody. I'm just working out with people. I got workout partners. And he was like, well, if you're not training, you should. And my mother told me a lot of things. And one thing that my mother told me that always stuck with me was like, if one person calls you a jackass, you have the right to like flip them off. But if two people call you a jackass, you might want to start looking for your tail. So this was like the second person in close succession telling me you really should do this. And he was the only, matter of fact, now that I think about it, these were the only two personal trainers I knew that I actually had respect for. So I said, okay, tell me more, because here I am sitting here stagnating, just trying to stay healthy until I can find my next check. And they're telling me, man, you could jump in this thing and be lucrative. So I'm still skeptical, but they're pushing me. They're like, hey, you should do it. And shout out to my man, Frank Moyne, and my man, Eric. Oh gosh, I can't remember Eric's last name right now, but Eric and Frank were the two cats who just pushed me. And so I jump in and I realize, okay, if I'm going to do this, I got to do it right. So let me get certified and let me get a legit certification. And again, here I am thinking I'm about to be selling something. And the thing that they kept reminding me of was like, dude, you naturally have a knack for this stuff. Matter of fact, more so than we do. If you jump in this, you're going to be a problem to us in our business because you're that good, because you just naturally have a passion for this and you burn for this. So you should just do it. And once they framed it like that, and they said, because I was worried about learning again and stuff. I mean, I've got college degrees and the whole nine, but school was way behind me. And they were like, don't think of it as learning. Just think about it as the stuff you already know and just learning how to say it in their language. And therein lies one of the keys, if I may, like when it comes to passion, is like when you figure out what your passion is, figure out how you can align it to whatever's going on in your life, whether it's professionally, whether it's even personally. Figure out how, okay, here's what I'm good at. Here's what I'm affluent with. And how can I translate that to be the most effective so when it becomes a lifestyle, it's something that can not only benefit me because I'm just indulging in my passion, but also can benefit the next person.
I love that. There's a few things that you mentioned, and I want to go back to. one of them was, taking well, let me start with this. One was the more you know. I love this saying, and I learn it every day, or I'm reminded of it every day. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yes.
And so I remember when I first started in my career and opening some business, I thought I was hot shot and knew
Right.
everything about whatever. But then as I started getting into it and stuff, somebody would come along and just put me in my place, so to speak.
Mhm.
So it's a good reminder to stay humble and know there's always room for growth.
Truth. And I will say this, there is a place for the confidence that expertise brings. There's a space for that. There's a space because honestly, as a record exec, that was one of the things that really propelled my career was that early on, I just knew a lot and felt like I knew a lot. So when someone would tell me, "Oh, well, you can't do this because that," I'm like, "Nah, I know this stuff." Like, and I tell them, "This is what I know," and that would always impress people because I was one of the youngest execs of my kind when I was doing that, primarily. And what got me in the door and crashed me through a number of ceilings and thresholds was the fact that I had a reputation for knowing a lot, especially for a young guy. But then, like you said, what it gets to a point where anyone who knows they're good should be able to know that they can be better and being
Exactly.
open. And at some point, I love living in my expertise, but still being open enough for that, still leaving room for somebody to be able to tell me something that makes me think twice. Because I'll tell you this, I learn a lot from people that I disagree with. A lot of times when that's especially in this era, just this whole era, just whatever you're talking about, socially, politically, spiritually, whatever. Like when I don't have the same, because right now technology, I don't even say allows us. Technology steers us because we all have our own personal technology in our hand now with our phones, right? Powerful pieces of technology, more powerful than even the laptop that I'm talking to you through now, right? If you think about it, and it's faster, it does more, it films in 4K and all this jazz, but these things are designed to curate experiences that match what we're into to keep us engaged. So whether it's social media, whether it's whatever, we get funneled into what we're already into. So that I don't have to try to talk to people that agree with me. I don't have to try to collaborate with people that have the same systems and ideals as I do. But what happens is breaking out of that silo, breaking out of that echo chamber is where I learn the most. When somebody's just as passionate in the opposite direction of me, that inspires me. I have a passion for that now, to be honest. And so when I would hear somebody say, "Nah, you're wrong," even if I know I'm right, knows a strong word. Even if I really strongly believe that I'm right, I want to hear out why they think I'm wrong or hear what the opposite perspective may be. Because just like people believe what I tell them when I tell them it with conviction, who I'd be foolish to think that that's not happening on the other side of the spectrum. And somewhere in the middle, there might be this real, even if it's just an inch to the left or the right of my mindset, there's something that we can grow from. And that I think that the more that people do that, the more that people have a passion for stuff that doesn't necessarily appeal to their natural sensibilities, the better we'll be able to be in general.
Yeah, and so often, we think we know what course we want to take. We think we're on here, but like an airplane, they're going from here to here. But what we don't pay attention to is all the little corrections they take, whatever the things that are needed for the situation. You know,
Precisely, precisely. So and that's life. For the longest time, I used to think that, and I'll get into my fitness philosophy here, but for the longest time, I used to think that life was when you had gotten yourself to a certain status and things are just moving very smoothly, like you said, linear from one point to the other. And there'd be these hiccups and these speed bumps that occur, like are occurring as we speak right now. These things are just, whether they're personal or in your family or worldwide, pandemic, endemic, whatever it is, there's these speed bumps that occur. And what I've increasingly learned with every single day that I am blessed to be on this planet. What I've learned is that those speed bumps and how we respond and navigate to those, that's actually living. When things are going linearly and things are going smoothly, that's actually just you getting a break.
Yeah, and we're programmed, unfortunately, I'll put that word on it, to think that that's living.
Right.
Just going point A to point B. But there's not as much fulfillment and joy and um, life there. It's like getting on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
You're just sitting there in your seat, and you go from point A to point B. But it's that turbulence that gives you that excitement. You're paying attention to it. You're more aware of where you are, your surroundings and stuff, and what's going on around you. And in those moments, you're like, oh, hey. And, like you said, in life or business and personal, spiritual, whatever, it's a lot of times those moments that you meet someone new.
Very true. I mean, if you think about it, anybody that you or I or anybody that's checking us out right now considers a hero, they're not heroes because they just woke up and were successful just from start to finish. Those people don't, there's a million people like that, billions of people like that on the planet, but we don't know anything about them. The people we know are the people who encountered some kind of adversity or saw some kind of challenge, rose to it, overcame it, or maybe even got knocked back by it publicly and then had to resume, recuperate, recover, and then where you go from there. When I think about it now, like there are certain musical artists when I was a kid, they were just always good. So it wasn't that I didn't like them but I didn't have a reason to respect them because as long as I knew who they were always successful. But then there'd be this other artist where you caught a glimpse of who this artist is because you saw them at some CD club or got their mixtape or got their SoundCloud link, and you're listening to this artist and you discover that artist for yourself, and then you watch that artist build and become more successful. And then all of a sudden, when that artist goes double platinum, you go, man, I was there. And those are the artists that you love and become a fan of more so than people who are just successful all the time. Or it might be an artist or athlete or whatever, or business person who's successful, but then hits this thing where everything just blows up and they're supposed to be done. They retire, they get an injury, they go bankrupt, something happens, just shuts them down, and you think, he or she is over. And then they rise from that to overcome and succeed. Those are the people that we revere. Those are the people that we celebrate.
Yeah, because we can connect with them more.
Exactly. And that's living, because that's life. That's life.
You say to yourself, I've been through that. He's going through what I'm going through. He's a real person.
Right. It's so funny you're talking about that. Who was it? I had an interesting conversation with somebody a few weeks ago about Adele, right? And Adele, she just dropped an album recently, and she's a superstar and everything, but she's a lot less large than she used to be. She's lost weight, and there's a section of her fan base that doesn't really buy into her anymore because they feel like she's too glammed up. When she was more so overweight, she seemed more relatable to certain people. And it's an interesting dynamic because I understand it, having been in the business. I understand both sides of it. But it's like, as a fitness person, I'm like, the first thing I would recommend to somebody is to get in the best shape they could be, especially if they had the means to do it, right? But here it is, somebody does something that makes them feel better about themselves, and the first thing that some other people go is like, I can't relate to her no more because she's too perfect. So it is an interesting thing how we as people relate to other people and other people's distress.
Yeah. And what I've been learning through the self-development and the mentorship that I've been taking is it's more of a reflection on us. I don't like you anymore because of this is really a reflection of who we are.
You're not wrong.
Versus
you're not wrong.
them.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, because I remember being not atypical of other people, but I remember there being a thing where somebody was a little too popular or a little too successful. I'd be like, that's the first thing I want to dump on. It's like, they're not all that. And then somewhere along the line, I realized, I want to be successful. I want to accomplish things. And when I accomplish these things, do I want people sitting around talking about me the way I'm talking about that person or that executive or that artist and I was like, you know what? Even if I don't like what they're doing, even if I don't like fill in the blanks music, or even if I don't like this trainer's technique, if they're beasting at what they're doing, the first thing I'm doing is congratulating publicly if I can, privately if I can, or at least internally, like, man, good for that person. And then the next thing I'm doing is studying what they did, studying whatever it is that they did to get where they're going, because I could use some of that to help me get where I'm going. So, and it's way more fun when a bunch of successful people are around. And I've learned this, even in my music industry days, when you have one guy or one lady, or one artist where they are the moneymaker, where they are the star, and they have a whole bunch of people in their entourage, maybe some aspiring musicians that are with them, maybe just their hangers-ons, maybe their family members. I've seen how heavy that crown is to wear when you're the only person who's doing it. But I've also been in the mix with people where it's a bunch of people who are successful. You've got a successful executive who promotes his junior executives, so they're making money and they're getting power and they're getting responsibility, or an artist and he's got 2 or 3 artists that he or she has signed and they're making moves as well. So when it's the 3 or 4 of them moving as a unit where everybody has their own means, it's a way lighter situation than when it's one person who's got to carry the weight of everybody else. So when I see somebody being successful, I actually have a passion for people. I have a passion for people being successful. And so when I see people being successful, I encourage it, I cheer it on, and I aspire towards it at the same time. You can do both of those things.
Yeah, and that is a good segue into what I wanted to talk about next, because you can have multiple passions and purposes and run them simultaneously.
Yes.
I wanted to say, when you were in the music industry and the fitness industry, how did you make that work? A lot of people talk about too many plates or work-life balance, or
it's not always easy. The administrative part of any business, you've got to have that down. So organization is definitely key. Something that I learned, I feel like relatively later in life, was, just because I can do everything doesn't mean I have to do everything. Do what I do best, delegate the rest. Hiring help. That was something that I've just done the last couple of years, and it's done wonders for me, because in my head it was like, well, why do I spend money on something that I can do? But time is, I have a client that says this all the time, like, energy is a finite resource. And so is time. You only have so much time, you only have so much energy. And with these finite resources, you've got to be very vigilant about maximizing them. And for me, maximizing them used to mean doing as much as I could do, but that's not really sustainable. So finding help always helps, whether it's just contracted help on certain specific situations, or hiring somebody like an assistant or a virtual assistant. And the other thing that helps me maintain the passion as a profession is, honestly, because I'm so passionate about it, that if I was doing it for free, like I was exercising for free, like I was telling before, I was exercising for free, and even telling people how to eat and telling people how to exercise for free. People had to keep nudging me like, dude, you could get paid to do this. And it wasn't until somebody actually ran the numbers to me, like, man, you walk in the gym with 4 people. If those 4 people were paying XYZ amount, and I see you in the gym with them 3-4 times a week, you'd be making that much a week. And I was just like, oh, I didn't see it that way, because I just didn't see it that way. I was like, oh, so when they start putting numbers to it, now, again, organizing that, being organized is what actually makes, something like the fitness industry actually lucrative. Because you can start off training people, and then all of a sudden you don't have organization, it all just falls apart. So you have to have some kind of systemization to it. But the main thing is, both music and fitness are my lifestyle. As we're sitting here looking at me right now, if you just sat down without knowing anything about me, I think you could look at me and look at the background and go, okay, this dude looks like he might exercise, and he's got platinum records. He might like music too. These are just who I am. So, when you find your passion and then align it with your purpose, kind of like the title of this show, when you align it with your purpose and understand what you're here for, and I'm here to help. So whether it was with music and making someone's day by either showing, exposing, or creating a song that just would change their life, mark an important day in their calendar, mean something to them that they can hold on to, or whether it's me giving you nutritional consultation or giving you fitness advice or exercise tips that actually help you improve the quality of your life. If I'm helping you, then I'm doing what I know I'm put on this planet to do. So the combination of that makes it not a chore, makes it not work, makes it just me being me.
I love that. And it just flows when you find that.
Yeah.
That vibe, whatever you want to call it, that
Mhm.
niche. I'm a huge fan of Ed Milet. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not.
I'm not.
I would highly recommend that you look him up. He's got a lot of great content, Ed
Okay.
Milet. But he talks about in one of his podcasts is your purpose might be, or your skill might be a great listener. Your skill might be a great speaker. Your skill might be, and he lists all these things that I never thought of before as skills.
Mm.
And it just opened my mind. I'm like, holy cow. I don't have to have a skill in what I think society says skill set is. Your passion. There's so many other things that you can be passionate about and still be just as valuable as anyone else.
To your point, Kenny, I will say this, piggybacking right off of that, trampolining right off of that. For the longest time, even now, there are times where I mean this without any kind of false humility. I'm just being me. Like, this is just who I am. And people go, "Oh my goodness, you know so much." And I'm like, "Nah, this isn't. I didn't invent this stuff. Like, I'm not creating health. I'm not creating vitamins and minerals. I'm not creating exercise. I'm just relaying to you." Even with music, if you look at these keyboards behind me, it's really only 12 notes that just keep repeating over and over and over again. So I'm not inventing new notes. You know what I mean? I'm just putting together. I'm not inventing new chords. I'm just playing the chords that are there. But what makes it different, what makes it significant, and somebody had to tell me this. I was either backstage for a TV appearance or for a radio appearance. I cannot remember, but I do remember. I was sitting with somebody who was an author, and she says to me, she'd done interviews with me on the panel before, and she goes, "You need to write a book." And I was just kind of like, I mean, you're an author, I'm not an author. And she goes, "Yeah, but you need to write a book." And I was like, "Yeah, but anything I'm saying is going to be something that's been said before." And that's always been my Achilles heel when I was trying to write before. I was like, I'm writing something I feel like someone has already said. And then she said this, she goes, "Yeah, but when you say it, it sounds different." And it's just like with music, you can have a million different singers and they can all sing, whatever. They can all sing, the national anthem. But depending on who the vocalist is, it's going to be in a different key. It's going to have a different inflection. It's going to have a different lilt to it. And that's what makes us unique. So it's our voice. So when you find your passion, you find your purpose, and then you just put it out there, it resonates with whoever resonates in your key, on your wavelength, And when she put it to me like that, that's what opened my eyes. Just like how you were talking about with, "Oh, I didn't even know that this or that was a skill." I didn't even know that what I was saying was any different, because from a facts basis, it's the same notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But me playing it is different than some other incredible keyboardists, John Legend or Alicia Keys. It's different from them playing it. And so, or Elton John playing it, or Billy Joel playing it. It's like they all play keyboards, but whoever plays it, it comes out sounding like them. And so that's the thing, that when you're aligned with your passion and your purpose, and you present that's that confidence and that fire, and it's going to resonate with whomever it is supposed to hear from you.
Exactly. And I was doing the same thing. I'm currently writing a book, and I had those same thoughts. every word of this has been said 800,000 times in 800 different ways, and so why even bother? Blah 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 blah. But it's I don't care if only 3 people read it in the world. It's me expressing me. It's gonna
Yes.
fall in the right ears, the right eyes, whatever. And I'm expressing me. I'm expressing my passion.
And I'm gonna encourage you to keep pressing forward on that book, and we probably keep tabs on each other because I'm working on the book myself. And here's the wild part: if just one person, like you said, if just 3 people, we only limit to 1. If just 3 people do raise their hand and say, "Man, Kenny, your book changed my life." There's so many times where when I'm training people or have people in my 6-week Super U group fitness cohort, I always encourage them to ask questions, because if one person asks a question, it's always amazing how the rest of the cohort goes, "Man, I wanted to know the answer to that question," even though I asked everybody to participate. So if 3 people stand up and say, "Hey, Kenny, that book nailed it," there's probably 3,000 people somewhere that you have access to that that just haven't raised their hand to say it. So you're absolutely correct. You just put it out there. You put it out there honestly, and it's going to resonate with who it's supposed to resonate with.
Yeah, thank you. I love that, and I want to go back to what you said earlier about when you were talking about doing what you do best and delegate the rest. Years ago, I used to be in that same mindset. Why spend the money over here when I could do it myself? And then, I looked at that as a waste of money, or I looked at that as cost and instead of value. And then something else that came with that is, I'm not allowing myself to be my full creative self,
Right.
because I have to do this over here. And at the same time, I'm not allowing KUTI to be their creative self by not asking them or hiring them to do this for me, or this person over here to do this for me. Instead I'm hoarding it myself and not giving them more opportunity to do that, and kind of the all ships rise with the tide sort of thing. And it's really, really been a game changer.
Yes, I mean, I'll tell you, as a person, when you have the ability to do a bunch of different things, and you fancy yourself as smart, and you even have some accomplishments to your name, you can get very territorial, proprietary about duties and the delegation of them. And I remember somebody telling me, "Look, man, if you can get somebody else to do what you're trying to do at just 80% of the level that you're trying to get them to do it, that you would do it to, you're winning." And again, a number to just kind of help me frame it and model what they were saying. And I was like, "Really?" And it's like, yeah, they said, think about it. When you were working for somebody, because I haven't been an employee for, gosh, like a long time. But it's like, it said, even when I was a kid working at Wendy's and I would get employee of the month, I was a hard worker, but there were times I was slacking. There were times I was sloughing off. There were times I might have let the fries burn by accident. That stuff might happen. You know what I mean? But I still was good enough to get employee of the month, and the place didn't burn down, and Wendy's still made money, right? And so that's any business. That's any business. Everybody's not going to be hitting at 100% no matter where you go. There's always going to be something where somebody is just having an off day, if not just having an average day. And when I thought about the realities of that, it kind of helped me frame, again, delegation. Because if I can just get them to delegate it to a certain part, and then because once you get them to 80%, you as the leader can kind of fine tune from there if you have to. And so that's been something, again, it's been a recent exercise for me. Like in the last 5 years, where I've just been kind of like, okay, you do that. Just do it to the best of your ability, and then let me see, and then I'll tweak, and then let it go. And the more okay you get with that, the more you will expand. The less you get with that, the more you're just going to be on this treadmill of just trying to get it done yourself. And you'll just be spinning your wheels. And I've done that. I don't want anybody else to waste their time doing that, so don't.
Yeah, and you'll find, like take you at Wendy's, for example, that wasn't your purpose. That wasn't your passion. Nothing against Wendy's, nothing
at all.
I made it just didn't align with you. So you're just kind of there for the paycheck, essentially.
Right.
But if I coordinate with you in what you're doing now, you're gonna be right there. You're gonna be like all in because it's what you love. It's who you are.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if I'm trying to play on the keyboard, I'm playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, and it takes me an hour to get through that.
Right.
So if I spend an hour doing that versus giving it to you, you could have it done and back to me in like 10 seconds.
There it is. There it is. And that just keeps everything moving. And you help the ecosystem. You're like you said, you're helping somebody else do what they do, and they're burning for it, and they're just running with it, and it just expands everything so much faster. And again, these are lessons that I learned as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, late, man. I learned them late, but not too late to be able to succeed, but late enough that I don't want anybody else that's watching this that, has any idea of what they're trying to do or trying to figure it out. I don't want you to have to hammer through all that stuff. There's no reason to do that. We've gone through that, so you don't have to go through that.
Yeah. And, we'd love to share our experience. And that brings up to our closing question here. And if people wanted to reach out to you, how could they get a hold of you?
The quickest way to find me, if you want to find out about me, you can go to my website, which is bybdfitness.com. So be your best daily, bybdfitness.com. That's the best way to get the clearest overview on me. But if you want to hit me directly, find me on Instagram. That's probably the best way. At KUTI Mack. So it's just at KUTI MACK, like you see on the screen, and just follow me, and then direct message me and just tell me that you heard or saw me on Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities, and I'll look out for you. I'll give you a free consultation, whatever. I'll answer your questions, whatever it is. I'll give you just a nice little, whatever it is you need help with when it comes to your fitness, mindset, or your nutrition. I'll give you a free consultation just because you came to me from here.
No, we appreciate that. And, I'd encourage you just to reach out just to say hello to anyone that's out there. And if you're stuck, has questions, please, don't hesitate. Don't feel bad.
I'm passionate about helping people. I'm passionate. Like, if I help you, I've done my part. The rest will take care of itself. And I have to say this really quick. I really love that, like, my logo and the screen, like, that they match. Like, that's really cool.
It's because we're in line,
I was saying, the headphones. It's like, it's all like, there was no meeting about this. It just happened, y'all.
So, and would love how things just work out, because if we put in the work and have the face, it'll work out. And that's a perfect example of one little way it works out.
Yes.
KUTI, thank you so much for your time. It's been an awesome conversation, and I'm sure we'll have more.
Yes, bring me back, man. I'm down. Like, if you've got some specifics you want to talk about, something comes up in terms of fitness, nutrition, music, you want to just rap about it, chop it up, I would love to do this again, because this has been awesome. You're great.
Absolutely, and thank you.
And I want to know about your book too.
Oh yeah, we'll be on tabs with each other about the book.
Do that.
And everybody watching, look out for those as well, because they'll be coming out here in the future. And everyone for tuning in, thank you so much. And please go live your passion, fulfill your purpose, and explore those possibilities.
Be your best.